Picture this. You're at Thanksgiving dinner, the plates are cleared, the conversation's winding down, and your son in law turns to you and asks, "So, how's retirement going? Were you able to save enough?" And you say, honestly, casually, "Yeah, we did okay. We've got about 550,000 saved up." You're just answering a question. You're not bragging. You're not asking for anything. You're just being honest with family. But by Christmas, your daughter's calling about help with a down payment. By spring, your brother in law is pitching you a business opportunity he wants you to invest in. And by next summer, you're lying awake at 3 in the morning, running numbers you never had to run before, all because of one sentence at a dinner table. That one conversation didn't just change how your family sees you, it started quietly dismantling a retirement plan that took you 30 years to build. And here's what makes this so dangerous. $500,000 sounds like a fortune to most people, but in retirement, managed carefully, it might generate just $20,000 a year. That's the gap that puts your future at risk. The gap between what people hear and what the money actually does. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how sharing that number changes the way people treat you, what $500,000 actually is in retirement, not in theory, but in real daily life, and how even small acts of generosity can slowly take apart everything you've worked so hard to build. And then I'm going to show you what to do about it, whether you've already shared your number or not. Let's start with why 500,000 sounds like so much to everyone except the person who saved it. When you put a six-figure number next to the word savings, something shifts in people's minds. They don't hear carefully structured retirement income. They hear cushion, safety net, more than enough. And honestly, you can't blame them. Statistically, you are ahead. Federal Reserve data puts the median net worth for Americans between 65 and 74 at roughly $400,000, and that includes home equity. So if you've got 500,000 or more in investable retirement savings, you likely have more than most people around you have in total. They're comparing your number to their 80,000 in a 401k or the mortgage they're still paying off. To them, you look rich. To you, that 500,000 is the only paycheck you're ever going to get again. And that's the perception gap that causes all the problems. They see a lump sum. You're living on what that lump sum can safely produce. But nobody asks about withdrawal rates at a barbecue. They just hear the number, and the number does all the talking. Let me show you how that plays out in real life. Linda and Jean retired at 63. Between Linda's 401k, Jean's IRA, and a small inheritance they'd received a few years earlier, they had about $520,000 saved. Social Security was still a couple of years away. They were proud of that number. They should have been. They'd been disciplined their whole working lives, packing lunches, driving used cars, saying no to vacations they wanted to take so they could max out contributions instead. Then came the family barbecue. Linda's sister asked how they were doing financially in retirement, and Linda said, "We're in good shape, a little over $500,000 saved." She meant it as reassurance, like, "Don't worry about us, we're fine." But her sister didn't hear reassurance. She heard opportunity. Within a few months, the request started. Linda's nephew needed $4,000 to cover a car repair. "Just until I get back on my feet." Her sister floated the idea of a family cruise. "You're retired now, you can swing it." Jean's adult daughter started hinting about help with preschool tuition for the grandkids. None of these people were being malicious. That's the important thing to understand. They weren't scheming. They just genuinely believed Linda and Jean had plenty. And once people believe that, the asks don't stop. They just become more comfortable. Now, to understand why this is such a big deal, you have to understand what $500,000 actually is in retirement. Because it's not what most people think. Most people, including your family, your friends, maybe even you before you started planning, picture 500,000 as this big, generous pile of money. It's not, it's an engine. And that engine has very strict operating rules. If you follow something like the 4% withdrawal guideline, $500,000 generates roughly $20,000 per year before taxes. That's about $1,650 per month. Now think about what that $1,650 has to do. It has to cover, or at least supplement, your groceries, your utilities, your property taxes, your home maintenance. It has to help absorb healthcare costs that Medicare doesn't cover. It has to keep pace with inflation, quietly eating 3 or more % of your purchasing power every single year. and it has to handle the things you can't predict: a new roof, a transmission, a medical bill. And behind the scenes, the rules get even tighter. There's something called sequence of returns risk, which means that if the market drops in your first few years of retirement, your portfolio takes a hit it may never fully recover from. So every unplanned withdrawal during those early years doesn't just cost you the dollar amount, it costs you the decades of growth that money would have produced. A $5,000 gift in year 2 of retirement does more damage than a $5,000 gift in year 15. The math is not neutral on timing. Here's the way I want you to think about this. That 500,000 isn't a savings account. It's a pension you built yourself. And every time you pull extra money out, your monthly pension check gets a little smaller permanently. Now let's go back to Linda and Jean because their story is about to get uncomfortable in a very common way. After that barbecue, Linda and Jean understood they couldn't write some huge check. A $50,000 gift was obviously out of the question. That was clear to them. What wasn't clear, what caught them off guard, was the slow bleed. The small asks that kept coming, and each felt perfectly reasonable on their own. 4,000 for the nephew's car, 2,500 to cover their daughter's dental bill, 3,200 for their portion of the family cruise they felt too guilty to skip, 1,800 in birthday and holiday gifts that suddenly felt expected rather than optional. In about 18 months, they had roughly $15,000 in unplanned withdrawals. Their withdrawal rate crept from a manageable 4% up towards 7. None of it was catastrophic in isolation, all of it was reasonable in the moment, but compounded together, it narrowed their future in ways they didn't see coming. And here's the emotional trap that makes this so hard to stop. When the people around you believe you have enough, saying no feels selfish. You start second guessing yourself. You think, we do have savings. Doesn't that mean I should help? They're struggling, and we're sitting on $500,000. Are we being greedy? That guilt is what makes emotional spending so dangerous. It doesn't come from your financial plan. It comes from a place that your financial plan was never designed to handle. And once you say yes 2 or 3 times, no becomes almost impossible. You've set an expectation. And now changing course feels like you're taking something away. Now I want to show you a different path. Because Linda and Jean's story isn't the only way this goes. Diane retired at 62 with $510,000. Divorced, living on her own, one adult son, and she told no one her number. Not her son, not her best friend, not her book club, nobody. When people asked how retirement was going, she had one line she used every time. I'm doing fine. I've got a plan with my advisor and we're being careful. That was it. No number, no details. Just calm confidence with a clear boundary baked right in. When her son needed help with a deposit on an apartment, Diane didn't say, I can't afford it. She said, my retirement money is structured like a pension. I can't just pull from it without consequences. Let's figure out another way together. And then she actually helped him, just not with money. She sat with him and helped him build a budget. She helped him find a more affordable place. She offered support without writing a check. 3 years into retirement, Diane's portfolio is healthy. She sleeps well, and her relationship with her son is strong, built on problem solving instead of handouts. Here's what matters. Diane didn't have more money than Linda and Jean. She had almost exactly the same amount. She just protected the structure around it. That's the difference, not the number, the boundaries. So let's talk about how to protect your number and your relationships at the same time. Because this isn't about becoming cold or dishonest. It's about being intentional. First, control the information. That doesn't mean lying. It means recognizing that your spouse and your financial planner need to know your numbers. Your accountant, if you have one, yes. Maybe one trusted person who's part of your estate plan. But your kids, your siblings, your friends, they do not need a dollar amount to love you, support you, or be part of your life. If the topic comes up, redirect. We've got a plan in place and we're sticking to it. That's a complete answer. You don't owe anyone more than that. Second, set your boundaries before the first ask ever comes. This is important. Once someone asks and you say yes, the precedent is set. So have your language ready before you need it. Something like, our retirement funds are structured. We can't treat them like a checking account. Or if it's your adult children, this one is powerful. If we spend this down, we become the ones who need help, and I won't put that on you. That second line works because it reframes the conversation. It's not about you saying no. It's about you protecting them from a future burden. People hear that differently. Third, stop running financial decisions through your guilt and start running them through your plan. When someone asks for money, the question isn't, can we afford this? The question is this built into our plan? And what are we saying no to later if we say yes right now? That shift from affordability to trade offs changes everything because unexpected expenses will come up regardless. If you've already spent your margin on things that weren't planned, you've got nothing left when the roof leaks or the car dies. And fourth, and this is one people miss, if helping family matters to you, and for most people it absolutely does, then build a specific annual amount into your withdrawal plan, a real line item for generosity. That way, when an opportunity comes to help, you can say yes from a position of strength instead of guilt. You know exactly what you can give because you planned for it. And you know that saying yes to this doesn't mean saying no to your own grocery budget in March. Now, wherever you are right now, here's what I'd tell you. If you haven't retired yet, start practicing privacy now. Stop sharing numbers casually. Get comfortable with vague answers. Build your boundary language before you ever need it, because you will need it. If you've already retired and you haven't shared your number, keep it that way. You are not being secretive, you are being strategic. There is a meaningful difference. And if you've already retired and the number is already out there, it's not too late. You can reframe the conversation. You can say, we've been working with an advisor and we've realized our money has to work like a pension. We can't keep treating it like a surplus. And then you hold that line. It might feel awkward the first time, it won't the fifth time. Now remember that Thanksgiving dinner. One casual sentence. We've got about 550,000 saved. And suddenly, everyone at the table sees you differently. Not because they're bad people, not because they're greedy, but because that number means something completely different to them than it does to you. They hear flexibility. You're managing a machine that has to run for the next 25 or 30 years without breaking down. The retirees who make 500,000 last aren't the ones who impressed anyone with it. They're the ones who quietly treated it like exactly what it is. A carefully built engine with one job: to fund their life for the rest of their life. So if you're approaching that milestone or you've already passed it, protect your number the same way you built it, quietly.